63rd independence anniversary. Occasions like this afford the country opportunity to analyze the journey so far and the task ahead in its march to greatness. On the program today, Nigeria's political evolution, education, development, security challenges, and progress recorded in sports will form a basis of our discussion. I'll be hanging out with Babajide Kolade Otitoju, Adewale Adeye, and Adekunle Yusuf, while distinguished Nigerians from far and near will join us for the discussion. Journalists Hangout starts now. Thank you for staying with us. Since independence from Britain on the 1st of October 1960, Nigeria can be said to have come of age politically and economically. After several military interregnums, the country appears to have achieved some stability in its democratic journey. Since 1999, it has succeeded in putting the military at bay, conducting 7 successful cycles of election, leading to 24 years of uninterrupted democracy. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who emerged the country's leader after winning the 2023 presidential election, reiterated the country's commitment to democracy and the rule of law in his independence anniversary address. Let's hear from Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Some people have said an independent Nigeria should never have come into existence. Some have said that our country will be torn apart. They are forever mistaken. Here, our nation stands, and here we shall remain. This year, we passed a significant milestone in our journey to a better Nigeria by democratically electing a 7th consecutive civilian government. Nigeria has proven that commitment to democracy and the rule of law remains our guiding light.
Yes, I have my discussants for this discussion. I'll be having Babajide Kolade Otitoju and Adewale Adeye, while Nazir Zaradin will join us from our Abuja studio, and a political historian and researcher, Muyiwa Jimoh, will join us via Zoom. Jide, let's set the ball rolling here. So far, since 1960, now, let's look at Nigeria's political evolution and development in the last 24 years of unbroken democratic rule.
Yes, it's been a good journey so far. I call it a good journey because everything put together, you have to admit that we've made progress. When you compare how we started to how we are now, you will see that a lot of progress has been made politically. The First Republic failed because it was thought that the political leadership at that time did not have the experience, to deliver democratic dividends. They did not have the democratic culture because we are just coming fresh from years of colonial rule. So they didn't actually know how to manage things in a manner that would please the generality of our people, in a manner that will ensure that we had peace. So the regional government at that time did not help us to achieve unity as a country, starting with the census of 1962, because population figure was the main parameter used to allocate resources to the regions. It was also the means by which regions can become greater or new regions can be created. So political leaders at that time were struggling among themselves to ensure that the population figures favored them, because they knew they would derive political power as well as financial power from population growth. So as a result of that, we rigged the census of 1962 badly. Rigged in the north, rigged in the south, because this was a real contestation for power between the regions. At the end of the day, the census figures were rejected,
Unreliable.
found unreliable, and a fresh census was conducted the following year, 1963. We came up with 55 million people. That census. Out of this 55 million, 29.7 million belonged to the north, if I can use the word belong to the north. But the north retained its numerical strength over the south, but people were still not placated. The political struggles led to this split between the action group in the western region. And of course, some of its leaders were jailed. The election that was held, for the first time, we had elections solely conducted by Nigerians. I'm talking about events leading to 1966, which led to the end of that First Republic, the fall of the First Republic. We conducted elections by ourselves solely for the first time, and it was massively rigged. Some of the people who describe the last election we had as the worst in history, they do not know some of what we've gone through. Because violence and all that, especially in the south, in the western region, Awolowo and his loyalists jailed. In short, the attempt by the action group and the NCNC to maintain the status quo failed, because clearly the government at the center was also pulling the strings, ensuring that it maintained its grip. In short, the fact that we've made gains across the board, whether it's education, security, we've made big gains, but there is still room for improvements.
Wale, to what extent will you say democratic norm has been entrenched in the country?
Well, I think to a very large extent, we have been able to build the pillars of democracy. Whether those pillars have been able to withstand the wide wind, the ups and downs, the tribulations, the fractures of the country, is another thing. Just like Babangida has said, we've come a very long way. When the British people came, there were independent nations. We had the Oyo Empire, we had the Benin Empire, we had the Shekiri nation that had thrived for centuries. As far back as 13th century, the Shekiri was exchanging envoys with Portugal. Oyo Empire, had its own senate, which was called Oyomesi. It had its own army. I think as at 1800, Ibadan had no fewer than 100,000 army, with an empire that extended up to Accra, that we now call the Ga people, the Ewe people in Togo, some parts of Benin Republic. So there were The same thing with the North, the Kokora Empire and all that. So merging the people together, bringing them under one country was a very difficult task for the British colonial powers. And this was not, they were not able to achieve this until 1914, January 1st. And when they came in, they realized that we were different. Language, culture, history. And that was why they set up a lot of constitutional conferences from 1922, Clifford Constitution, Richard State Constitution. And I think by 1954, they look at the whole system and say, look, the best way for us is to have a federal system of government. A federal system of government means that you have states and federal government sharing powers, but the states have some level of autonomy over their affairs. In terms of economy, in terms of management of resources, they have some level of autonomy. So when they were living in 1959, ahead of the 1960 independence, they went around all over the country, set up the Williamson Commission to interview people in different parts of the world. That publication that was published in 1959, I still have a copy, raw copy. If you read that book, each ethnic group came up to say, look, they expressed their fears and aspirations. But they were able to tell them that, look, either we want to be Western region, Northern region, Eastern region. And at that time, each region had its own laws. There was the Western regional constitution aspect. So there was no desperation to go into the center. People were contented with managing their regions. Parliamentary system, and were able to achieve a lot. Even traditional rulers were also given specific roles to play. But I think the intervention of the military that now matched diverse cultures together by force, I think that was one of the major problems that we have. But apart from that, we should also not forget that the British, when they were living, they were bent on imposing their own surrogates on Nigeria. They wanted a class of people that would represent their own interests. And that was why they were involved in so many manipulations. Some of these facts are not known until recently. If you read the book recently published by Arrow Smith, it was one of the British agents here. He exposed a lot of things that happened around that time. So the British were also fighting for their own interest. That was why when they brought in the Anglo-Nigerian defense part, the resistance was, immense, especially in the Southwest. So I think in our experience in terms of building a nation, we have had so many obstacles. However, just like Babangida has said, we cannot deny the fact that we have made progress in terms of in economy, in education, in science, in communication, transportation. In 1960, if you are going from here to maybe Lokoja, probably it will take you 3 days. Or in the 1950s, you have to stop at Ibadan. If you are going to Kano, probably it will take you some 5 days. And how many airports do we have in the country at that time? So we have really made a lot of progress, even in terms of population, in terms of the prestige of the country. Now Nigeria is the largest economy in Africa. So we've made a lot of progress, but I think that comparatively we could have done better if only we can address some fundamental issues, especially the structure of the Nigerian political economy that appears to stifle creativity and the potentials of the different nations that have been forced to live together, not necessarily out of their own will.
Let me go over to the Abuja studio, Mr. Zaradin. What sort of political leaders have emerged compared to the First and Second Republic?
Well, I think that is where we have the problem. And the problem started with godfatherism in politics. I think in the First Republic, yes, there were leaders like Sir Ahmadu Bello, Sardauna Sokoto, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe. But you could not at that time call them godfathers as such, because they left people who had merit. Meritocracy was the order of the day. And they gave every part of society.
We'll take this commercial break. When we come back, we'll talk more. It's still a special edition of Journalist Hangout on Independence Day. We'll be right back after this time out.
arise and shine. Let us scream from the south to the west, rejoicing in the faith and choice of our ancestors to come together and say, Nigeria must be free. Let our freedom continue to be affirmed firmly as we celebrate another independence. Our pride is seen in the success of our youth and the achievements of our heroes past. Let it be heard. In our unity lies our strength. We believe without a doubt that the only way to move our nation forward is when the Ijaw does not see the Yoruba as enemies, where the relationship between the Shekiri and the Ilaje is of no relevance in the language they speak, where the Kanuri sees the Fulani as brothers, and there is no discrimination between Delta Igbo and every other Igbo-speaking person in our beloved nation. Let us all embrace the peaceful nature of the Yorubas. Nigeria must be and can be great. Let us renew our hope. Happy Independence Day, Nigeria.
Thank you for staying with us. It's this 63rd independence anniversary of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I also have across Zoom with me a political historian, a researcher, and I know him as a politician. Honorable Muyiwa Jimoh, thank you for staying with us.
Good afternoon.
A lot of people will tell us that, look, our first experiment at the parliamentary system of government, and after we left that, we now went to copy and paste the American system of presidential system of government. And people are questioning this particular system of government that, look, it might not be suitable. Since 1960 till now, do you think this present system of government, this arrangement is better than what we had in the First Republic?
Well, fundamentally, let me make a remark to the submission of Mr. Kolade Otutoju and Kobri Wale Adeomi. That they got it right in their presentation earlier that we have had a better time and prosperity too. But despite that, there is still need for improvement. However, it seems to me that paradigm of development, as the word has to be, has been predetermined. As far back as 1930, the great British economist, Thomas Keynes, was predicting what would be.
Babajide, now, how has democratic rule impacted the growth in the country? If we say Honorable Muyiwa Jimoh is saying that we've not done well, with what we are doing presently, and we seem to say since 1999 we've had uninterrupted civilian to civilian administration, and we changed powers successfully, and we seem to be celebrating that. So this democratic rule, how is it impacted on the growth of the country?
Oh, the natural thing for any forward-looking individual is to always envision a future that is better than what we have today. But when you compare the progress that we've made under civilian rule, the way development has been taken to different parts of our country, there's no doubt that we've seen a lot of progress. Let's even look at before 1999. Just looking at the hospitality sector, for example. How many big hotels were there in Lagos? I know that in this area, when you are talking about an hotel of value, people will talk about either Excellence Hotel or Airport Hotel.
We didn't have this hotel with international franchise.
Today, if you look at how many hotels Nigerians have built between 1999 and now, you can't compare to what we had in all the years of military rule. In fact, what we had within 10 years is tremendous when you look at, you put everything together. That's just one example. You look at schools that governments have built between that time and now. The number thoroughly outstrips what we had under military rule. You look at the kilometers of roads that have been built. Yes, there's a lot of stealing that politicians have caused to happen. But politicians at the level of the parliament where they are present, they know that their duty is to bring development to their respective constituencies. So, and they have largely been able to bring development to their constituencies. They may not have been able to spread it in a manner that pleases everyone. But I can tell you, in terms of the kilometers of new roads that have been built during that period, during the period between 1999 and now, so many roads have been built. So the development, the growth and development that we have experienced in our country cuts across every sphere of our lives. Whether it's education that we are talking about, because we'll still talk about education, I don't want to go into that, or whether it is even security, the way the military has been armed, the way they bought weapons for the military and all that. We interviewed the chief of air staff the other day, and he was talking about just one category of aircraft. 24 are coming. So the political class have done well in their own rights. It's not as if I'm convinced that they've scored high marks. I believe that they can do much better. But to not admit that so much progress has happened is to be dishonest. And that's why many people will tell you that the worst civilian regime is better than the best military regime. So in many ways, when you look around, you see that, yes, progress has been made. And you can discountenance universities as know that it does not represent progress. But any university town, you see that economic development takes place by the mere presence of a university in that community. And we've had a good number of them under civilian rule. So while we believe that they can do so much more, the fact stares us in the face that across all spheres of our national lives, civilian rule has delivered progress.
Wale, how can you rate the youths and women participation in politics and governance since that time?
Okay, yeah, let me quickly also add to what Babajide has said. If you are not careful, you may fall into the illusion that military is better than democratic government. But if you look at the fundamentals, when you are talking about accountability, under the military, they are not accountable to anybody. Nobody was asking questions about how much money they got. You could not have a state governor that would challenge the military. So there was no accountability. Then there was no checks and balance. You know, here that you
Who
have the
is the
legislature, you have the also that can, you know, then there is no freedom of speech.
Yes.
Then there was no citizen participation.
Remember somebody who published something on the birthday of a governor?
Decree 4, you know.
On the birthday of a governor, one of the South states, he said they should go and bring him.
Yeah.
And they shaved his head.
Oh, yeah.
As a military regime. Yes. That why should you publish that on my birthday?
Yeah.
You wanted to embarrass me.
You know,
So some people are talking about military rule now. I just look at them.
There is nothing as important as citizen participation that you can take part in the affairs of your life. Ask yourself, how many TV stations do we have when the military were there? Probably about 3. Now you are talking about almost about 100 TV stations. Radio stations, at that time, maybe about 3. You are talking about now almost about 150 all over the country. So there is no basis for comparison unless people do have any deep sense of history. And I think we should not make that mistake. Well, on the empowerment of youth and women, I think we are making progress, though very slow. And just like what we are saying, under the military government, was any female ever appointed as military administrator? It never happened. It could not have never have happened. But now, at least we have about, I think about, the last National Assembly, we had about 7. Now I think we have about 3, out of about 109. And we are talking about 3.5%, which is still very low. And I believe we can do more. I believe the space is there more than before for women participation. You know, the opportunity is there. The windows of opportunity are there for women. So it's just for us to encourage our women to be more active in participation and also to ensure that they take part in political activism. In terms of the youth, I think we are having a lot of changes. If you look at people that have been even appointed as either special advisors or, you know, special assistants, you know, in this current regime, there are a lot of younger people that are involved. And I think we once had the Speaker of the House of Rep, you know, in 1999, who was just 28 years old, Buhari. So we are making progress, though we may be very slow, but I don't think we are moving backwards.
All right, Mr. Zaradin, we have witnessed the longest democratic rule for 24 straight years now. Now, hence, democracy has come to stay. How has this benefited this country? 24 straight years of a democracy.
24 straight years, I think, well, some people will say we have been stumbling and tumbling, but all the same, there are some challenges. Challenges of poverty, challenges of power, challenges of industrialization, challenges of even electoral malpractices, and also that big challenge of mutual suspicion. But despite all that, Nigeria is still surviving. I want to take us back to the former Secretary General of the United Nations, Boutros Ghali. When he finished his tenure at the United Nations, he was asked if he is to choose a country to go and retire, which country will he go to? And at that time, mind you, there were serious political crises in Nigeria. Boutros Ghali said, of course, Nigeria. And he told them that any country in the world that has been subjected to the stress and pressure Nigeria was being subjected to at that time would have vanished. No country could take 1/3 of what Nigeria has taken, and it is still surviving. So I believe all we need to do is there is need for improvement. There is need for improvement, and now President Bola Tinubu has a great role to play. Since coming into office, you cannot judge him. He's just about 5 months old in the office. But I think in the 5 months, one can say he has brought in a new strength in the Nigerian sinew, a new firmness in the Nigerian steps, a new steel in the Nigerian eye, and of course, a new focus in the Nigerian direction. And that is the sort of leadership we need to carry us to the next stage.
Honorable Muyajumo, 24 years of straight democracy. How has this benefited us since 1999 till this time?
Well, absolutely. As I've said earlier, that we have a better time too. We have a prosperity. Uh, None of these conditions is absolute. That is the point. There was a time in history that the king of Saudi Arabia have his medical checkups in Nigeria, precisely University of Ibadan. Indeed, Professor Shitoku is his personal physician. And we do have students from other parts of Africa, the Maghreb Arabs, that is the Morocco, Mauritania, and the Maghrebian region. There are other universities, either University of Lagos, University of in the past. But all that are not practicable now. But it is correct and it is true that we have a better time. 24 years of democracy is there's an improvement that Mr. Gide and Comrade Wale Adeoye have said. But minus, we should just reason it from this angle that minus that will take us to zero is still a good step. We can still do more. And I agree with the president when he delivers his independence speech. We need to be patient. He emphasized that he acknowledged that there are issues that we need to work on. Which, to me, is honest enough to tell Nigerians that we need to be focused so that we can prepare our mind towards the challenges ahead. So, 24 years of democracy, there are improvements, no doubt. Remember, before now, hitherto, freedom of speech is not the way we are experiencing. People can now protest on anything during those days of the military regime. You can't just even your parents will be warning you that don't go and join the protest. But protest is free now. You can just start protest against your government anytime. You can just make demand, which it is not so during the military. Yes, the military has taken us backward, no doubt. But we must also emphasize the colonial state created a bifurcated society that those who will empower and those who will disempower. So from the independence, the colonial deliberately did that to bifurcate our society, and it's part of things we are still battling with contemporary.
Thank you, Honorable Muajimo. Jude, this one now is that we've had 7 cycles of general election. How impactful has this been to our democracy? We've had from 1999, had all sort of the last one, INEC. INEC has conducted 3 or 4 cycles of election by that name, and we've seen innovations. We've seen introduction of electronics, card reader. We've seen the beavers. We've seen so many things that the system is getting better and better and better. Yes. What happened in 2023, was it in any way kind of a setback?
It's not a setback. It's not a setback. It's not a setback. 2003 election. In those days, people were simply writing results. There was no means by which you could even verify if this thing, if the result attributed to your party was correct. They simply intimidate people and write results. Today, political parties have situation rooms. There was nothing like that before. This time around, we have the internet permits us to be able to monitor what's going on far away. We didn't have it in 2003. In 2003 and 2007, the elections were massively rigged. Nothing like card reader.
In most cases, the number of voters with more than the number of registered
Yes,
voters.
it happened in Ogun State.
Yes.
It happened in Ogun State. You know, people they were just writing results. You can't compare the Maurice Iwu era to what we now have. It's unfortunate that look, the gains that have been made. We didn't have beavers. We didn't have card reader. And you can't tell me that electronic accreditation of results of voters has not helped us or has not improved electoral integrity. There's no way you can convince me. Because when we didn't have card reader or beavers, it was easy to simply write the results. It was easy. But today, you know that there are different layers that you must surmount. The agents are there. Beavers is there. I told you about a politician who told his people, you better work hard. Because this time around is different too. Because there's beavers. Look at the results that came from some of the states, especially states of the north. In this last election, it came down. The reason is beavers, nothing else.
Those bogus.
Where you used to have, I won't even say bogus, but we used to have very big.
Larger numbers.
Yes.
Incredible.
Incredible figures. But this time around, because it is now outlawed to use incident form, the figures have gone down drastically. So in terms, we've been moving incrementally. If we watch from 79 to 83, and then from 99, we've been moving incrementally towards achieving our aim of electoral integrity. And innovations have been introduced. They can call INEC names, but we introduced card reader to make our elections better. Card reader played this part. There are many people today who will not be in the National Assembly if not because of beavers and card reader. If it was the era when they were simply writing results, who are they to even think of entering a National Assembly? 12 APC governors, 12 of them could not deliver their states to the candidate, the presidential candidate of their party. Has it ever happened in our history? People ignore these things because they've chosen to not believe any other thing, except you say their candidate was the one who won the election. Any other thing you say they don't want to hear. But 12 APC governors failed to deliver their states to Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Look at a state like Kaduna, for example. APC won only 2 local governments, Sanga and Brinengwari. If they told you, even me, I will confess that if they told me before the election that will happen, I will have argued. Because I will have said, with the influence of this person, with the influence of that person. Just 2 local governments. Well, they were well beaten in the election. Even the governor could not deliver his local government. So, in 2003, could that have happened? Never. That same year, his party had lost election. They say, no, it's embarrassing to say this person, as big as he is in government, he lost election. They changed the result for him. They changed the result for him just because he's big in government.
According to the courts, they were even writing results in the hotel rooms.
Yes.
At that time, somebody was
have you forgotten 140?
Yes.
When they were using palm kernel to thumb print.
Yes.
They were tired of using their hands. They now resorted to using. Who used palm kernel in this last election? Even the voters register had people like Mike Tyson and other people who were dead, Mandela, all of them. Our voter register is cleaned up. You can't find such names this time around. Yet people will say, it's the worst election. How can it be worse?
Wally, finally on the segment, how has the rule of law enhanced freedom and human rights protection in this country?
Well, it's very easy to just say, there's no rule of law in Nigeria. But if you go to the Minister of Justice and you compute the different cases that affects both the rich man, the ordinary man, you will discover that to a large extent, the judiciary has made a lot of impact in sustainable development in Nigeria. Don't forget that in this country, governors have been sentenced to jail, senators have been sentenced to jail, and former governors have been investigated. You know, rich men, there are rich men now who are in detention. Some of them have been convicted. So I think generally we can say that the judiciary can still do more, but I think that the judiciary remains one of the remarkable pillars of democracy in Nigeria. And we can also not doubt the fact that democracy has revolutionized a lot of sectors. Communication, for instance. Look at the GSM.
Yes.
In the past, you have to trek maybe to NITEL to go and queue up to make,
Go to NITEL.
yeah, IT. A lot of people stay at home now just for IT. That's how they saw the social media,
You know that
advertising going on in Facebook.
Since independence, apart from farming, nothing has given Nigerians jobs more than the coming of GSM.
Yeah.
Technicians whose job just to repair, they are there. Those whose job is just to make you use their
Software.
their phone lines and then you pay, they are there. All kinds of
Our children are into coding.
all kinds of jobs have come linked to the coming of GSM. And they are employing so many people.
It's the
You know how
future.
many people MTN, for example, is employing.
Future.
So if it had not come, a lot of people today will have no jobs
Yeah.
of their own.
Mr. Zaradin, so how will you conclude? We say so far, so good when you look back.
Well, I will say so far, so good, believe me, because 24 years, especially of an interrupted democracy, has brought a lot of goodies. Yes, there were a lot of traps or booby traps on the way, but Nigeria successfully scaled them and avoided them. So I believe the future, there is hope in the future of this country. And we need to do whatever we can to ensure that that future is ascertained. And Nigerians too need to come out and cooperate with the government to ensure that things are done in the way they should be done. We need to bury our differences. We need to move as a nation. We need to forget all these problems that have been bedeviling the country over the past 63 years. But on the whole, I must say that Nigeria will certainly survive, and we have done quite a lot in spite of all the challenges that we have enumerated in this program.
All right, Mr. Honorable Muirajimo, from your own end, how will you summarize this?
Well, so far so good. We have had growth and little development. Because growth and development, they are not the same. Growth is in quantitative, while development is in qualitative. However, the speech of the statement credited to the Chief of Army Staff, that is to uphold the Constitution of Federal Republic of Nigeria, is a welcome development to the entire for the past 24 years. In the recent time, we have not had such statements from the military, from any other military officer in the country. I think it's a development in some extent. However, our federated units, about 394 to 412 ethnic groups have been identified in Nigeria. So we need to work more on our federated constituencies, because we have a country that we must define our federated units.
I don't thank you. Okay. Looking at this segment, Wale Aduye, I'd like to thank you for your contribution. Thank you. And I want to thank Mr. Nuruddin Zaradin. I want to thank you. Thank you for your contribution. And Mr. Honorable Muyiwa Jimo, thank you for your contribution this segment. I'll take this breather. When we come back, we'll go into the next segment. We'll be right back at Nigeria at 63.
Welcome back, folks. And if you are just joining us, this is the Independence Day edition of Journalist Hangout from our station here. Okay then, truth be told, security challenges of Nigeria are a threat to the foundation of the country's nationhood. In retrospect, one cannot fail to mention the largely avoidable fratricidal 30-month war between 1967 and 1970. That senseless conflict had devastating consequences for the country. Death, displacement of people, destruction of public infrastructure, as well as physical and social capital. The new and present threat to national growth is the Boko Haram insurgency, which came upon us in 2009, beg your pardon. Now, 14 years on, Boko Haram insurgency appears to defy a solution, yet the jihadist group freewheelingly has conducted operations in several attacks in the areas of Chad, Cameroon, and Niger. Are we damned? Now, let's hear from Mr. President himself on national security in his Independence Day anniversary speech. Hear this.
My administration shall always accord the highest priority to the safety of the people, inter-service collaboration, and intelligence sharing have been enhanced. Our service chiefs have been tasked with the vital responsibility of rebuilding the capacity of our security services. Here, I salute and commend our gallant security forces for keeping us safe and securing our territorial integrity. Many have paid the ultimate sacrifice. We remember them today and their families. We shall equip our forces with the ways and means needed to perform their urgent task on behalf of the people.
All right, that's Mr. President on the Independence Day speech. The speech was on earlier on today. Let me report, I still have Babajide Kolade Utitoju here, BKO, for they say labor of love. That's why you are sticking it.
Yes.
We are joined by Chris Kainde Wandu, CKN. I greet you. Happy holiday to you.
Nice to see you. Journalists, do we go on holidays?
You look 63 to me.
63?
Yeah.
No, keep me before my time.
Okay then. Siki, let's start with you. Security in Nigeria is a tall order.
Yes, it is a tall order. And let me wish every Nigerian watching us across the globe happy anniversary. In as much as some people believe that we don't have anything to celebrate about. In as much as some people believe that we don't have anything to celebrate, we still have so much to celebrate. So if you're a Nigerian, anywhere you find yourself, we should celebrate. Because if you don't celebrate anything, the fact that you are still alive to witness the day is reason for celebration. Yeah. So many people have gone. So happy anniversary, Independence Anniversary to us. Yes, the narrative was well captured. The issue of security dates back as far as 1967, when we had the Civil War. Because in 1960, when we got independence, or pre-1960, we just felt the problem we had was we had the British who were colonizing us. And we felt that the need for us to chase them away so that we can take up leadership. But in taking up rule ourselves. But after we've chased them away, we now realize that even within ourselves, there are so many problems, divisions among us, which we didn't rear his head before independence. And that came to play.
But does it say the...
We're interrupting this program to bring you a live telecast. Our regular programs will continue shortly. Please stay tuned.
Because pre that, we didn't have that arm. Yeah. So when the war ended, There was no way the government could have retrieved